I wanted to talk about failure rates that keep me up at night. In college, I teach many different disciplines, including business, marketing, and in the fashion merchandising program, which is the business side of fashion. And I am deeply troubled because as I look around and I see for sale signs, leasing signs, for rent signs on storefronts and on office complexes, those to me are not signs of success. They are actually signs of epic small business failures and what's broken about small business. But I believe that this can be changed with a different conversation about what type of knowledge small businesses need to be successful. But I first want to start with talking about what is small business. So the Department of Labor captures data, and the Small Business Administration actually reports on that data. And they look at small businesses as anything that has under 500 employees, which many of us think it's too big a number, but it is what it is. So there are 13.2 million small businesses in the United States today. 22 million of them are single owner operated. And if you do the reverse math, that means that 11.2 million are actually larger small businesses or mid-sized companies with between 2 and 500 employees. But the number that's most striking to me on this is the 99.9% of all businesses in the United States are small businesses. So doing the reverse math on that, that means that there are 20,516 large corporations in the United States. So what is their secret? How do they make it from small business to large corporations? So I will share that secret at the very end. So to give you a little bit of background on myself, my mother was actually the first female engineer at General Motors, and my dad was a real estate broker. They both had professional jobs, and they also ran side businesses that always failed. So I have dedicated myself, I think I'd come by it honestly maybe, my love of business. I don't know if I'm in a customer service role here or doing sales on there. But I have dedicated my career to understanding business, and that's why I have the MBA and a master's in education, so I can teach what I learn. But my whole purpose in educating other people is to think differently. So I actually started in business at the age of 8. That's the 20 years you heard was not really true. But I started at 8, running concession stands, cleaning facilities, collecting rents, because with my parents' obviously busy schedule, business became the babysitter. It was a way to keep me busy. And I'm thankful and grateful for that experience because during my formative learning years, I was actually learning about business and actual practices. Oops. I attended University of Michigan. I actually purposely took classes at night while working at Buick Motor Division 40 hours during the day and then helping my parents with small businesses and still working because I never wanted to give up what I was learning during the day, and it actually helped complement what I was learning at night. And I was actually approached by a vice president at General Motors who actually asked me to join the co-op program, which is the entree into GM through the student program. And I remember the conversation and I said, Bill, I'm 21, right? I don't know VP. Bill, you make an Olds Bravada and a GMC Jimmy and a Chevy Blazer, and they're all the same vehicle, and you market them weird. And then I went home and told my mom I turned them down. I got that look that said that, who are you? You are not my child. Who got swapped out at birth? So I have spent my time working in small business, mid-sized companies, and many Fortune 500 companies, again, dedicating myself working in different industries to try to understand what these common denominators are. And the one thing I've learned is that every company is different. Ford and GM make cars, but they're organized completely different. And I also owned a small little fashion boutique on the side for my love of fashion. So going back to the SBA numbers, what I did to show you how horrific these numbers are and why I'm very troubled by them is that I did the math based on the 33.2 million. 31% of all small businesses will fail in 2 years. 50%, or half of them, will fail in 5. And 65.5% of all small businesses will fail in 10 years. And again, these to me are very horrific rates. These are people's dreams, their livelihood. I'm still traumatized by powdered milk and powdered eggs as a kid because my parents were putting all their money into trying to save their small businesses. And the excuses are all the same too. Decade after decade, we hear the same excuses for why small business fails. And yet never before in our nation's history has there been more support for small businesses. Go look at the SBA. On the SBA's website, you have templates for business plans. You have a step-by-step instructions on how to be able to set up your company. You have partnerships with private organizations, with nonprofit organizations. There's small business loans. There's small business grants. There's certifications that you can get into larger corporations better. And yet, there's always the same. So as my mom would always hate that I was always that why kid. Well, but why? So I started to look at why. If all this information is available and all this knowledge is available to small businesses, and these are entrepreneurs too, students that are coming out of entrepreneurial programs that are learning business in theory. And if they're following these steps, why aren't they being successful? So I started with my whys, and being in a Ph.D. program for philosophy and aesthetics of art theory, which I know is completely different from my other degrees. But it's for the fashion philosopher is what I'm trying to be. But I would be remiss if I didn't start out with Socrates, saying, to know thyself is the beginning of wisdom. So I don't know why, because people don't know what they don't know when they get into small business. They're coming at it from different angles. They may be a student coming into it with no real practical experience. They could be low-level management in a corporation. They could be somebody who's an IT person who has just a discipline in IT. So what I recommend is I'm asking questions like, why aren't they taught to have a volunteer board of directors? If large corporations have advisory boards and governance boards, why aren't small businesses either encouraged and or mandated to have a volunteer board? And this volunteer board should be a mix of age groups, of disciplines, and even maybe an executive. Somebody who can help you. And I would also recommend that you do this before you actually complete your marketing or your business plan. And have them help you curate ideas that are going to be successful. And keep that board at least a minimum of 3 years, if not until you become a large corporation. Also, why aren't owners taught that time is their greatest enemy? It's not your competition down your street. You have to learn to make yourself do things that you hate to do every single day. I do things that I hate to do every single day. But I look at the results of what I do, and that is what inspires me. And yet, even when I go to teach in the art schools especially, my art students are more focused on the art, not the business of it. And I see that procrastination is the biggest, I say one of the biggest contributors, is not doing something costs time. Time equals money. So I always recommend to my students the Sedona method. And the Sedona method is used by Olympians to help them increase their success rate. But it's also used to help give you techniques for overcoming and breaking through procrastination. Also, why aren't owners taught easy technology? Never before in our nation's history have we had easier technology that an owner could do, and yet I know so many business owners that the first thing that they do with that small business loan is go pay $5,000, $10,000 for a website. I'm self-taught as a graphic designer, as a web designer, as an app developer, as a video person, doing my own video editing, because the technology is so easy. And they walk you through. So the first step is understanding that there are social media aggregators out there. You put in one post on a Sunday and you plan them all out for the week, and they just do like a drip campaign. It just goes all week. I don't have to worry about it. So there's all these templates and apps that can make you saving a little bit of time to learn it, but save a lot of money in the long run. Also, why are they not taught to control their money? I was the recipient of this. My dad was a creative thinker. He hated numbers. He left everything to a small business manager who conservatively embezzled at least $100,000 from my dad's small business. So always sign your own checks. Always know your finances and meet with either your employees and or your vendors and know your numbers. They may do it, but you want to know it. And always be frugal but never cheap. Now, as a marketer, again, I've won an American Marketing Association Award, which is the highest one in the industry, but I did it because I understand supply chain management. Whoops. Supply chain management is much different than regular marketing, or supply chain marketing. It's much different than any other marketing. Because like you heard the other presenter talking about digital marketing, that's a subset of marketing. Supply chain marketing is from product development all the way to customer service or account management. And I've seen a lot of people draw these out, and the most creative one I saw was the actual London Underground map, where they had, through the subway system, had done it. It was confusing, crossing over each other, and it was clear that they didn't really understand marketing from a supply chain standpoint. So I took the opportunity and I redraw the map. Marketing is dynamic, it is complex, but it is orderly and it is methodical. And every one of those, on the outside you see there are P's of marketing, and I teach those in my classes. And so marketing really is the numbers game. So if I have a campaign and it's not doing well, my numbers are telling me it's not doing well. I can also go to my numbers and say, do I change my offer? Do I change my pricing? Do I change the channel I'm advertising on? Do I change the creative? My numbers are driving my performance behavior. So when I first started, I started teaching the 5 Ps. And that's geared towards a product. And I thought, well, why am I doing that? It's very antiquated in the days of social media. Now in social media, your customer service is equally as important as the product or the service that you're selling. So I skipped that and I went straight to the 8 Ps. And I thought about the 8 Ps and I'm like, okay, so that adds more to it, but it doesn't answer the question about the numbers. So I finally added performance. Because performance, whether it's performance metrics or marketing research, gives me the information to be able to be informed about what needs to be changed in 1 through 8. So I developed the 9 Ps of marketing that I teach. Also, why aren't they taught about internal marketing? We talked about regular marketing. That's outward towards your customers. And today with the Great American Walkout of workers need to be inspired. You need to start doing brand education and letting them know what is important about your brand. Bonding activities, team building, employee recognition. Right now, this is being left to HR. HR does not have a marketing background. They don't know how to sell to people. They don't know how to inspire people. And one of the things that I encourage people to look at is a net promoter score. A net promoter score is what you use with your clients, but you can also use it with your employees. It's basically saying how likely are you to promote my company to other people. So if you do the net promoter score with your employees, that's actually something you can put on your recruitment marketing plan and your advertising to promote, hey, this is a great place to work. Why? Because you've done the hard work of selling your company ongoing to your employees. And why aren't they taught about sweat equity? Sweat equity is a way to be able to compensate someone through stock options. So a small business, you don't have always that money, but you can compensate somebody more than what their salary is, and more and give it as a bonus. But we're not even talking about sweat equity, and people in the industrial age use sweat equity. It increases in loyalty and engagement. They're going to work harder because they have a vested interest in your company. But there's a risk reward. If they don't see the value of your company, then stock options mean nothing. And if a person hasn't earned the right to stock options, then you're giving your stock options away too soon. So there's a nice balance between the two. But to give you an example, Apple's Steve Wozniak, one of the co-founders of Apple, got so infuriated in the 1980s because Apple's board would not give the early garage employees a bonus and stock options that he actually gave 10 million of his own stock to those early garage employees. So there's a way to be able to use sweat equity and employees that are working hard and giving back. And why are they not taught how to avoid being defeated by the emotion of defeat? It's hard. If you are an emotional person by nature or you have an ego that gets bruised easily, it's hard to take a blow. So I always remind my students of Henry Ford. Henry Ford failed at several companies before opening Ford Motor Company. And I don't know that people actually think about it, but Ford actually started with a Model A and did not find commercial success until the Model T. That's 19 product failures along the way. But it was his perseverance that kept going. And this is a great example of where a volunteer board can bring rational thought to people that are emotional and making decisions based on emotion. You want people who can calm you down, a mentor, your board of directors, to keep you going. And now I'm at the secret to what large companies know that small businesses don't know. And the answer ultimately is sad because for decades they've been telling small businesses what the answers are. But if you've never worked in a large corporation or you haven't worked in a certain level in a large corporation, you don't know the secret. The secret is actually a quality management system. Quality management systems are the job descriptions in your company. They tell everybody what to do. Oh, hey, do this step, and then when you get done with this step, it then goes to the accounting department. And then after the accounting department, then it goes here. It's a step-by-step instruction of functions of departments. It gives feedback loops. So when it's broken, you'll hear employees complain or you'll hear clients complain, and there's a process for how you be able to fix those problems, and it's called continuous improvement. And then you measure your results. You don't just accept that result that you put in, that fix that you put in place is the answer, because it actually might cause more chaos. So you measure it. And at the end of the day, the biggest secret that these large companies have figured out is that these systems, these systems are designed, oh, it's not showing. These systems are designed to make it so that you focus on what's broken in your company and you don't focus on what's working. And think about that, because small business owners are functionally different than a CEO at a large corporation. The CEO at a large corporation has, how it's structured, but as a small business owner, you are the CEO, the vice president, the director, the manager, the supervisor, the worker of everything. One owner. So you have to be able to work and make it work. Now, these are complex and robust systems, Six Sigma, ISO certifications. And to work in some of these big companies, you have to have those certifications. And I've worked for small and mid-sized companies that actually just check the box to get the certificate so they can get the work, but never create the system the way it's designed. They'll put processes in place, and I've even watched them scramble at the last minute to try to put all the information in the system so that when the auditors come in, it looks like they've been following the processes. So the answer is, focus on what will work. So I have been able to create a pared down version of this because I went to my fashion store. I was working for a company who sent me to India to fix problems with the clients, GE and General Motors, and I was gone for 2 months. In 2 months, I had no phone calls from my manager, and actually made money while I was gone because she knew exactly what to do, and when there was a problem, she knew exactly where to go to find the answer. And that is the secret of large corporations' successes, is the dependence on step-by-step instructions on how to be able to have those job descriptions for their companies. So I think that, and I do believe, that with a different conversation about small business and how to be able to change that knowledge base, that we can have more small business successes than small business failures. Thank you.